You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Glad you could join me today for part 2 of our Cabral HouseCalls. Excited to share with you more of our community's questions. Hopefully you did tune in yesterday. We had a lot of fun on that show, answering a lot of questions from literally all over the world. So that was episode 876. So check that out. Today's episode 877. And at stephencabral.com/877, you will find all of the notes and links for today's show. So if I mention a lab test or a study or anything like that, all of those links will be right there. So it's really, really easy for you to find those. And of course, you can go back and listen to previous shows by going to stephencabral.com/podcasts. And that's where all previous podcasts are at. So let's get started. But before we do, I just wanted to send out one thank you to everyone who reviewed the Cabral Concept on iTunes this past week. We got a bunch more reviews. I'm really excited about that. I'm not sure why they all came in 1 week, but I'm very grateful for that. And so to everyone who reviewed in the past or last week, thank you so much for doing that. And for those who will review maybe even today, I appreciate and thank you in advance. All right, let's get started. I do want to get right into the questions. The reason I want to do that is that I want to get to as many as possible. So without further ado, our first question today is from Alex. Alex is asking, I'm a longtime listener of your podcast. I've done the Dr. Ball Detox and Sleep Protocol. Thank you for educating the community. I've learned so much. I'm interested to find out when women should repeat a bone density test. Is it driven by the age 50s or by having specific symptoms? I've searched the podcast but didn't find any reference to the topic. All right, so happy to say we are now in April's questions. This is April 1st. This came in. This is a great question. And no, we haven't talked about this before. So bone density scans are done more often for those people who are more at risk. And what does more at risk mean? Well, it means that you've shown a steady decline in bone density over the years. And yes, your first bone scan does typically happen in your mid-50s or so. Like colonoscopy, bone scan, all the different scans start happening basically in the 50s. And what I would say is I'm not necessarily against a bone scan, but what you want to look at well before that, or just say you're in your 50s right now, 60s, 70s, whatever it might be, is the reason for why bone may be breaking down faster. Okay? One reason is, and again, we always talk about, well, acidity doesn't mean anything. And sure, acidity doesn't really mean anything in terms of the blood because the blood's going to maintain a proper pH within a certain parameter of about 7.3 to about 7.5. But what we're looking at is that the more acid-based foods, the more minerals your body needs to neutralize those acids. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, because your body has to create the proper pH using kidneys and using minerals and electrolytes. And some of those are calcium, and that can actually come from the bones. And we know that. I mean, there are studies out there, and you're welcome to check them out, that people who drink the most milk, believe it or not, can have the weakest density of bones. And that's because calcium can actually be pulled from the bones to make up for, let's say, the acidity of milk. And again, like that's debatable. That's a good debate, I think, to have. But what I would say is this, is that your body, in order to build bone, needs a couple things. First, it needs a stressor. So that's why twice a week weight training is a must for all humans. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's honestly twice a week weight training. It's been proven. One of those great people on the forefront of that was Dr. Wayne Westcott right here in Massachusetts in Quincy. And he has a bunch of books, Dr. Wayne Westcott. You can look him up. But it's basically twice a week. 3 times was great, but it was twice a week where you got the exponential jump. And it doesn't have to be a ton of work either. And they actually did like a lot of machine-based training, which I'm not even recommending that much. But they still showed that you could build muscle and build bone density. So what I'm recommending is a stressor, okay, on the body. Again, walking's not a stressor for the bones, but walking up a hill could be a stressor, and doing some weight training is a stressor. So, and then we need to rebuild those bones or keep them strong. Now, ideally, this is happening in your teens and 20s, right? Because that's when you're going to build up that bone. But still, we can do work on it. And then you need the vitamin K, you need the vitamin D, you need the calcium, you need the magnesium, and you basically all the cofactors to keep the bone strong. And you're going to get all of those pretty much in any functional medicine product. So the daily activated multivitamin, the daily nutritional support shake, that's going to have your foundation. And then you can take extra if you want, that's okay. But if you ever take calcium, please take it with magnesium. There's very few cases, 1 out of 100 where calcium would want to be used without magnesium. And that would be in for a shorter period of time. And I'm not going to get into that today because that's another whole podcast. But you'll want to use the two. And the reason, if you just take straight calcium, it's going to most likely, some of it at least, will be left in the arteries. And that's going to cause hardening of the arteries, which of course we don't want. So what I would say is do the bone test if you'd like. If you're doing well and you have another one in a year or two, you may be able to wait 5 years. And so everyone has to do what they feel is best for their body. And I am against elective medical, essentially, procedures unless we need them. And this is controversial as well. But I just don't believe that women should go for a mammogram every year. Why? Because they're finding now that a lot of women who have mammograms versus those who don't have more prone to breast cancer. And it kind of makes sense because you're radiating the breast tissue every time you do an x-ray of it, right? Every time you do a mammogram. So it's like, well, yeah, we want to test. I agree with that. I mean, I'm not against that. I totally believe in it. But you're radiating the body at the same time. It's like, I don't want to do just elective x-rays on my body, which is radiation. There's a reason why, you're putting those heavy lead or protective-based masks over the body. Now, there's thermal imaging. Thermal imaging could be another great alternative to women who want to do a mammogram. And that's something that I'll recommend to my own wife, at the time. And I'll say, hey, I think you should look at thermal imaging first. And then if we see something, okay, then maybe go for the mammogram. But again, that's personal preference. I'm getting way off on a tangent here, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Hopefully that was helpful. Donna's up next. Donna's asking, when I do Russian twists, I hear an echoing sound as I inhale and exhale when I twist from side to side. It's what I would imagine someone with asthma might sound like. I've also heard muffled breathing in both ears, mild stuffiness, and a little pressure in my forehead. I do not experience this with rowing, sprinting, weightlifting, jump rope, or anything else. Could this be a symptom of food sensitivity? I ate fruits, vegetables, lean meat, salads, seeds, nuts, no peanuts, no dairy except Kerry Gold Butter. I eat eggs and free-range chicken. Any thoughts? You're welcome to resend to this specific question if needed. Okay, Donna, yes, I do actually have thoughts on this and experienced it myself quite a while ago. It's actually more common than you would think or believe. So there are a bunch of different reasons. I'm going to give you the reasons, at least that I know of. Remember, this is always a place to start, is that it can be an obstruction of the airway. We'll talk about that. It could be asthma. It could be inflammation in the lungs, pleuritis, inflammation around the lungs. But it can also be, which you may have guessed already on those, but it could also be from acid reflux. Believe it or not, a lot of people with this condition have silent acid reflux. They also have post-nasal drip causing inflammation in that airway as well. And the last reason, which was more of what I was going through, was kind of like intense breathing and then the vacuum that's created as you cut off the lungs. So think of it this way. As you breathe in, we hear that, right? That normal noise. But also, if you breathe in and rotate, the air can also then be partially forced out of the lungs as well, being harmless. So basically, think of it as almost like a vacuum. And if you cut off that vacuum, you hear you just basically hear the vacuum being cut off, and whatever air didn't make it in is being expelled. So basically, as you twist, you can be cutting off and tensing the diaphragm, and that's going to create that vacuum where the air can't really get in, because it's hard to breathe in when you're rotating, right? If you're doing a strong rotation, especially if you're strong, like if you have a good amount of muscles and you're rotating, that can really cut off that oxygen. Well, any oxygen that didn't make it in is kind of expelled back out. So multiple different reasons. Obviously, explore the asthma, inflammation. You'll want to explore to see if there's any acid reflux or post-nasal drip. And then again, what I would do is I would maybe take a deep breath in, exhale out as much oxygen as you can, and then just try the rotations for 5 or 6 before having to breathe. When you do that, is that wheezing noise gone? And if it is, well, most likely it was just that air escaping and being trapped. Hopefully that helps. Nicole's up next. Nicole is asking, hi there. I'm not sure which test I should be taking. I'm a 32-year-old woman, do resistance training 4 to 5 times a week. I'm about 13% body fat, overall healthy. I eat pretty healthy 90% of the time. I suffer from chronic acne on my chin, predominantly around my period. I'm so over it. I'm after listening to podcasts. I may have a form of hypothyroidism. I really want to optimize my health, continue feeling amazing as I age, and get rid of this acne I've been battling for years after I had my son 7 years ago. If you can suggest which test I should consider, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Nicole, this is a great test to get answers to same day at cabralsupportgroup.com. So you can pop right over there, cabralsupportgroup.com. You'll get answers almost same day. I don't mind you right into the house call. I'd love it. I love seeing these questions. But just keep in mind, it takes about, unfortunately, 10 weeks or so for me to get back to. And that's only because we have so many questions come in. And there's only, obviously, so much time to answer all the questions. So the number one test for you, hands down, because this does look like a hormonal-based issue, whether it's a balance of estrogen to progesterone to testosterone. And you mentioned typically around the period. Absolutely, it's the thyroid adrenal hormone. Hands down, that's the number one test. My number two test for you would be the organic acids test. And the number three would be the hair tissue mineral analysis if you're going to do three. Hopefully that helps. That is exactly where I would start. Remember, all tests that are run through equilibriumnutrition.com. I read over your results. I give recommendations. My health coaches take you through those protocols. And I consider it like kind of the best of all worlds. Like you get to save by not being necessarily a private wellness client, but you're a lab coaching client of ours. And you get all of the personal recommendations. You get all those great things. And just for the price of basically getting that lab with the coaching call. So I think it's pretty great. It gives people the exact plan of what they need to do and exactly why they're in the position they are, because you'll find out what those underlying root causes are. Hopefully that helps, Nicole. Up next is Taylor. Taylor's asking, hi, Dr. Ball. I recently did the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol and stuck to it well. I feel amazing around the 60-day mark. Around day 80, I started feeling like I had some gas pains and burping with meals. I've been going for 3 months. My digestive issues were never as bad. Unsure about what to do next. Took 2 rounds of the Healthy Belly and Clean Gut, and I've been on the Clean Gut probiotic, and that hasn't seemed to change. I did some food sensitivity testing as well, and nothing seemed to be showing up. Do you have any recommendations on what I should do? I appreciate it. Taylor. Okay, Taylor, yes, I know exactly what happens in, let's say, 80% of the cases that this happens to. By the time you get to month 3, you've been able now to be much more lenient with your foods. And some of those foods that you're eating could be causing the gas. So meaning like they're foods that just don't digest well with you. Everybody has foods and they're healthy foods. And I like to put healthy in air quotes. And I'm doing that right beside the microphone right now. And they give people gas. And so I would say you were doing well and feeling amazing, you said, at day 60. Okay. Well, what happened within the 2 weeks after that? What new foods did you introduce? No matter how healthy you believe they are. Let's say it's cauliflower. Some people just can't eat cauliflower unless they put it in a pressure cooker, right? Could you? Did you introduce more raw foods? Did you introduce more leaves like lettuce? Did you introduce nuts? Did you introduce more cheat meals? Like what was it that was new? That's what I always like to hear. And then it says you introduced the Clean Gut probiotic. Well, just to let you know, the Clean Gut probiotic is not part of the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. So in that protocol, we're using Saccharomyces boulardii, our acidophilus, and our daily probiotic support. And previously, before that was the pharmacology, which is great. But now we've upgraded people. We literally have upgraded people for the same exact price because we wanted to. So after that, you use the daily probiotic support and you use the healthy gut support. So that's what I would be doing after the protocol. I would love for you to check in at cabralsupportgroup.com. Let us know if you found out what the culprit foods are, because I know it's been a couple months. And we'll be able to support you from there. And then if things still haven't gone away, then I would run a stool test. And we'll just check to see if there's any parasites or any E. coli overgrowth or any H. pylori. Okay? So hopefully, Taylor, that was helpful. And thank you for writing in, but I want to make sure that you get the results that you want and deserve. So simply let us know at Cabral Support Group. Okay. Lindsay's up next. Hello, Dr. Ball. Thanks for all you do for bringing health and wellness to the masses. 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression and put on Lexapro, which is an antidepressant. My symptoms continued, and after seeking therapy and putting it on the highest dose and even using Wellbutrin, I struggled with massive downs that led to many days in bed and suicidal thoughts, terrible irritability, extreme dependence on outside stimuli to find happiness. Eventually, it led to a referral for a psychiatrist for bipolar. Since being put on certain medications, it's been much more manageable. I've been able to lower my dosage of antidepressants, yet I still do take them. My question is, where do you stand on use of pharmaceuticals in mental health? One, be able to alter their chemical makeup through diet, supplements, lifestyle. I feel so great now that I'm more balanced, but would ultimately love not to rely on pharmaceuticals. Should I be taking vitamin D, vitamin Bs, multi, fish oil, calcium, magnesium, zinc? I recently purchased a light box to sit under in the morning for 30 minutes, even though I live in a decently sunny area. All right, Lindsay, this is a great question. Thank you for bringing this up. And I'm so happy that you've essentially continued down your own health journey, because I know that there can be really dark times in your life and other people's lives who are going through the same thing right now. And, you don't give up, because there were some really dark times, I'm sure, where you wanted to give up. You had those suicidal thoughts, but now think about it now. Like, you're on the road to recovery. You're getting better and you didn't give up. So I commend you for that. You're obviously a very strong person. And now we can work on totally optimizing the body. So where do I stand on pharmaceuticals and mental health? Well, I believe that they have their time and place. If someone has suicidal thoughts, I don't want anyone committing suicide, because I want them to get to the place where Lindsay's at now, where they have hope. So take the pharmaceuticals if needed in the acute circumstance, but let's help people then rebalance the body and wean them off the pharmaceuticals. That's what I believe. And that's because I don't believe that anybody had a Lexapro or Wellbutrin or any of the other pharmaceuticals deficiency. You don't, right? But what you might have is a serotonin deficiency. What you might have is a vitamin B deficiency. What you might have are vitamin D deficiency. What you might have is low thyroid, right? You might have low cortisol. What if you have low dopamine? I've talked about all of these different things. So what I recommend is this, Lindsay, if possible, I would run 3 main tests. Well, actually, I would run the Dr. Ball Big 5. I know it's obviously it's more expensive. We give you huge savings, like $400 or something, because we want people to run those if possible. The Big 5 is like, the data you get on yourself is absolutely incredible. I try to run the Big 5 on myself every year. It is an investment. I mean, I pay for the labs myself. I think people maybe have it confused. Like, I pay for all the labs. I don't own any of these labs. I pay for the supplements too. Like, they cost money, but it's investment in my health. And that, again, that's just how I look at it. But obviously people look at it differently, and I understand all circumstances, so don't get me wrong. But I'm going to put them in order of importance for you. All right? Order of importance. Organic acids test. Let us look at the neurotransmitter waste markers, candida overgrowth, gut health, liver detoxification, mitochondrial function, all your B vitamins, all your vitamin C. Monumental test. 75 biomarkers, not just for the gut. That's called the organic acid test. I'm going to link them all up today at stephencabral.com/877. So check that out, Lindsay. All right, next up is the hair tissue mineral analysis. It's going to look at all your minerals. What if you are just depleted of your electrolytes? What if that's called a 4-low pattern? People who are 4-low pattern are more prone to apathy, depression. They just feel low. Their electrolytes are depleted from years of stress. Or, again, a lot of women, they have children. Their body gave everything they had to building that new life. A lot of people don't understand this. Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, women would have had a prenatal diet, a perinatal diet, and a postnatal diet. We don't do that in the United States anymore. Listen to my podcast on how to have a healthy, happy pregnancy. It will teach you a lot of those same things. Okay, so those 2 labs, the organic acids test and the hair tissue mineral analysis, is called our starter kit. We give people $100 off on that as well, because that's an amazing place to start. Okay, so that's the first place. And then after that, we'll get into the rest of the Big 5. For you, it would be the thyroid adrenal hormone test to see if you have low thyroid, low vitamin D, blood sugar dysregularity. All right, that's an important one too. After that, it would be the omega-3 test. Okay, the omega-3 test. Those with higher levels of omega-6s and lower levels of omega-3 are more prone to ADD, ADHD, this is for children as well, okay? More prone to irritability, bipolar, depression, anxiety. This is not my hearsay. This is actual scientific research by conventional medicine as well. So that's actually 4. And then the 5th one, if you want to do it, would be food sensitivities, causing inflammation, irritating your gut. All right, that would be the Big 5. And I gave them for you in order, I believe, of importance. Lindsay, hopefully that was helpful. All right, Alicia's up next. How does lower back pain relate to low thyroid function? Well, Alicia, this is a good question. And I don't know if there's a direct correlation. I've seen direct correlations with lower back pain with intestinal blockages, meaning like constipation. That leads to impaction of the colon. A lot of people say, like, how would that be possible? Well, believe it or not, your transverse colon runs directly across your lower back. And since it goes directly across your lower back and it goes slightly uphill, slightly against gravity, when the stool gets impacted, it can actually lead to that stiffness in the lower back. All right. Inflammation in the intestines in general, or kidneys. If let's say you have intestinal permeability, leaky gut, and your kidneys are filtering more protein, and they are a little painful, well, that could lead to lower back pain. So I've definitely seen correlations there. I've seen lower back pain stiffness with improper diet and inflammation in general. But from low thyroid, it would be difficult for me to say that it could be attributed to lower back pain. Now, again, I might not just be aware of it. That's a possibility. I may not be aware of it. But if you type in and you look at some different studies on lower back pain linked to thyroid, there might be that. I just haven't seen that from a clinical perspective. Now, I've seen overall stiffness and lower back from low adrenal output as well as low thyroid. All right. And why would I have seen that? Because the body is producing less of its own natural anti-inflammatories. So I know that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but that's what I've seen essentially from a clinical perspective. Hopefully that's helpful. All right. Mason's up next. And again, for you, I would run the organic acids test to see what's going on in terms of gut function, and then potentially try our intestinal cleanse, which I don't mention enough. The intestinal cleanse is an amazing 5-day cleanse that really helps get rid of a lot of old, decayed, and waste matter, essentially just waste matter in the intestines. So it's very, very impressive. Something that I recommend to pretty much everyone once or twice a year. All right. So Mason's up next. Mason will be our last question. Love your podcast and everything you talk about so much. My question for you is this. I'm a college student, turned 20. Been over a year since I've gotten my period. Within the last year of losing my period, I went to college, caused a lot of stress, started to get on more of a plant-based diet. I do eat meat and eggs every once in a while, but not often. I've been to my primary care doctor about this. Did some blood work. All my hormone levels look normal. I have pelvic ultrasound in May. What should I do in the meantime? Any tests I should get done? Should I incorporate certain foods and supplements to try to get back on track? I want to get back as naturally as possible. Thank you so much. Mason, I have an answer for you. Type in amenorrhea at stephencabral.com/podcast. Type in amenorrhea or type in missing period. Well, I would just type in amenorrhea. And what we're going to help you do is find out all the different reasons. So I want you to listen to that in depth because it will be on a previous house call. But keep in mind, it's not enough that your doctor said your hormone levels were normal. That's honestly, it's such a disservice to people. All my levels were normal too when I was extremely sick. The problem with most likely you found out from your primary care, they just tested your hormones. It doesn't mean that they're optimal. It just means they were normal. They were normal. And you should have tested them 5 days to 7 days before you were scheduled to get your period. And if you haven't gotten your period, well, just do it like at a symptom-based time where maybe there's a little bit more bloating, a little bit more irritability, maybe a little bit of headaches, maybe a little bit more acne on the chin. Do it then. That's when to have your blood work done, really. But honestly, I would run our thyroid adrenal hormone test because then you can do it on your own. You don't need your doctor's permission. You look at so many other factors such as blood sugar, adrenal output, testosterone, your androgens. You're going to look at DHEA to cortisol levels. You're going to look at your full thyroid panel. That's what I would run. And I know that, in college, there's, financial issues. Believe me, I had them myself. That was for sure. Working, going to school, not always the easiest thing to do, right? And I was trying to eat healthy on top of that. But what I would recommend too is the thyroid adrenal hormone panel done around when you get a little bit of symptoms. We'll test it. We'll look at your hormone levels. We'll give you then recommendations from there. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you everyone for tuning into another edition of the Cabral Concept. Love being able to answer your questions. Thank you so much. I hope you've had an amazing weekend. And like I said, for all show notes, links, all that great stuff, go to stephencabral.com/877. I'll talk with you tomorrow on our Mindset and Motivation Monday. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my health results accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.